So this is my why. This is why I teach. I decided to create a work of art from my art room featuring it. I started with a round canvas that I painted a palette on, and then I wanted the palette to kind of be pushed back a little bit so it wasn't so stand out-ish. So here I am kind of after spending a good while making a palette look realistic, painting over the palette, just kind of using some acrylic paint, watered down, a dry-ish brush, and kind of brushing it out. I also wanted the middle band to be a little bit more faded since I wanted to put some emphasis on the word masterpiece. Once that dries, and by the way, I love acrylic paint because it dries in a blink of the eyeballsies. Once that was dry, I decided to start I was going to pencil in my words, but it actually worked really well to use that watered down paint to paint my words in. And the cool bit about watered down acrylic paint is this. Get ready to hold onto your hats. If you make a boo-boo, you just take a cloth and wipe off your wording and it's gone. If it's dried just a pinch, there will be a little bit of a ghost line that remains. Here I am just erasing it or paint over it. It's that easy. I love it so. So once I used that watered down paint to paint in my words, I just was ready to go to town Charlie Brown. So this work of art, this all came about because my art teacher and buddies and I, we are reading The Wild Card by Hope and Wade King. And in the book, it talks about finding your why. Why do you teach? So I spent a lot of time thinking about why I teach art to my students. And then I thought it would be really cool to not only just have that in my mind, but also put that in kid-friendly terms and then have it be a work of art that I can display in my art room, that my students can read, that I can refer back to, that sometimes on those wild and crazy days, I can take a look at and kind of, center myself a bit. So once I got all my lettering in, as I'm doing at a painstakingly slow pace, then I was ready to add the paint. Let me see if I can speed this up just a pinch. Wow, look who's onto her lettering already. About time. So whenever I use this acrylic paint too, I'm using my teeny tiny Royal Langnickel brushes, and I like to water down the paint a bit. I think it gives it a little bit more viscosity. I also like to say the word viscosity because it makes me feel fancy and sound intelligencies. Anyway, I am right now just kind of going over my lines and then not even doing this like as pretty as I would like, just kind of scratching it all in. And I will tell you this, I did mess up some of my lettering, and even though it was black paint, I was still able to wipe it off and not have it smear. So I'm telling you, watered down acrylic paint is actually where it's at. I also kind of sort of didn't really measure out where I was going to put things. I just kind of went for it and eyeballed it. When I bust out the ruler and there's math involved, that's where the fun stops for me. So my lettering is going to be a little bit wonky and I'm just living with it as long as I didn't spell anything wrong. I'm double checking. It looks all right. Why can't there be spell check on paintings? That would be so super helpful. All right. Now that the lettering was done, then I could start going back over all of those letters, kind of beefing them up a little bit, making sure the spacing was good and just making them look nice. Now, the toughest part for me is actually going to be to find a place in my art room to display this, because if you've seen my room, there's not tons of wall space left. But I feel like having your why that you teach, why you're there, visible for you and for the kids to see is super important. So I'm actually thinking of putting it right at the forefront of where I sit. So it's the first thing that they see when I'm giving instructions, and I can always refer to it, especially on that very first days of school. Thanks guys for letting me share my why with you. I'd love to see yours.